Joe, LSU and Ole Miss, the Magnolia Bowl this weekend. Ole Miss favor 1.5 on our good friends over at FanDuel. When you look at this game, how do you break this one down?
Well, the first big thing on LSU's side, and you've kind of alluded to this, it was brought up that Nussmeier was dealing with a little bit of a torso injury, and it was affecting him during fall camp. And it hadn't really been highlighted much until the offensive inconsistencies came into play. He had a bit of a shaky game in week 2 against a no-name opponent, and he has the shaky game against Florida, and everybody's starting to panic. Suddenly, he's seemingly back to normal against Southeastern Louisiana, which it's Southeastern. It's not a tough opponent, but it did feel like more of a rhythm was captured. Mm-hmm. I think Blake, knowing with Nuss, if that version of him shows up against Ole Miss and the version that we saw in week 1 against Clemson, where he was decisive, he was aggressive, he was attacking, that version to me is the biggest key to winning this game. Because Blake, to be very, very honest, I have not been impressed by this Ole Miss team to start the year.
Ooh.
I think that this Ole Miss team has had a lot of shakiness. I'm not using the Tulane game as the evidence that this team is an ICC title threat. I look at the way that they played against Kentucky, where they were a mess and they were all over the place. And I look at the Arkansas game where Taylor Green ran for 150 yards and they almost let Arkansas get back into it.
Mm-hmm.
Blake, I mean, the simplest way to sum up what I just said here. I'm sorry that I'm doing this to you because I'm the worst LSU.
Oh, no.
I am not saying I'm picking LSU. I'm not stating it. I'm just saying there is a degree of separation that needs to be talked about.
All right, LSU's getting blown out. Joe go picking LSU now. LSU's getting blown out. Can Trinidad Chambliss do this against LSU's defense?
Mm-hmm.
Can LSU, who struggled against running quarterbacks, contain and actually stop a quarterback from running? I don't know right now what to make of Trinidad Chambliss. And quite frankly, we both love and adore Austin Simmons. And I have no clue, none whatsoever, of what Lane Kiffin's going to do. I am speculating. I have no clue. I keep hearing people saying that they have a quarterback controversy. Where's the controversy? Because Trinidad,
they need to go to Chambliss.
They got to go to Chambliss because they have been very electric with him. You say the Tulane game. The problem with the Tulane game is he was in full control and he ran all over him. The question that I ask is, can LSU hold on? And more than hold on, Joe, is this defense legit? And I think every time LSU does something and gets on a quote-unquote bigger stage, everybody says, yeah, but. Well, yeah, but with what, the defense? Because the question I start asking is, you had the number 4 team last week in Miami who was only winning, and I say only winning, but the game is 13-7 with 5 minutes left to go against Florida. I mean, LSU had physically dominated that entire game. Like, I'm not trying to put comparative contrast into this, but I think LSU has answered questions defensively, and I still think that I don't want to say LSU broke Clemson. I think they exposed a lot of their flaws offensively, and they have not been able to fix that. I turn to this and say, can this LSU offense continue to find a rhythm? I do not. You know how I've been about Garrett and this offense the last 2 seasons or year and a half plus, whatever you want to call it. Last Saturday was the best game that Garrett Nussmeier has ever been in an LSU uniform. It's not close. Joey had 5 drops. Can the receivers catch the ball? That'll be a whole different topic of conversation. Mm-hmm. He should have been perfect. 31 of 31 is what he should have been. Catch adjusted, he should have been 31 of 31. He looked different. He moved different. However, LSU can't run the football right now. And the biggest weakness for Ole Miss as a team is they can't stop the run. The biggest weakness for LSU right now is they can't run the ball. And somebody's got to win that battle. And I don't know if that's LSU.
Well, I would argue typically in a matchup like that, whenever we see a team that's bad at stopping the run, no matter who they're facing, said team will suddenly find success running the football. They're 123rd in EPA per rush defensively. They can't stop anything. Bad. The only thing that I wonder is the production that they're allowing I know that Kentucky had its way with running the football against Ole Miss in that game, and that was kind of some of the problems. But are they statistically so bad because Taylon Green was just so elusive?
No, they're not getting lined up. I mean, as I broke them down all day yesterday and today, my buddy Lyle Johnson was here doing some work at our house, and he's like, "Are you really watching this game over again?" Because when I got it, but Joe, they're not getting lined up. Other than Perkins on Ole Miss's Perkins, I don't think that they know what they're doing sometimes. They're getting lost in man coverage. Their linebackers are missing reads. I don't know. But I don't know if LSU is the team to expose it either.
Right. The one thing, the opposite side of this is LSU's offensive line going to get potentially exposed in this game? Because Ole Miss has not been productive at causing disruption. It has not. It's been another category that one of the worst teams in college football at creating havoc. They're just not good at doing it. We have talked about at length that a lot of the offensive problems stem, and they don't really get talked about enough. It stems from the offensive line not being as good as it was last year. It just has not, and that's a tough task to ask it to be as good as last year's offensive line. I do kind of get here. There's all these weird problems that both these teams have that align with the opponent's problems. Which team gets right in this game? Which team actually catches the rhythm and gets right? That's where the winner comes from.
You know, I do say this about Ole Miss though. They will go 3 and 4 yards in a cloud of dust, and it's not the Lane Kiffin style, but they do it with tempo. The Lacey kid, and now with Chambliss, and then Logan Diggs getting involved late in games and running downhill. Joe, it's completely opposite of what you think of what Lane Kiffin's going to do. In case you haven't watched Ole Miss this year, Joe, they are downhill. I mean, they are straight downhill, and they don't care. And what has happened here, and what I think is going to be interesting, Chambliss has been able over the last 2 weeks. Arkansas is god-awful in their secondary. God-awful. And I don't think Tulane is as good as LSU in the secondary, clearly. Yeah. So can he make the big throws when it needs to? I'm going to talk about this a lot on Thursday, but I'm going to give a little preview here. I don't know if Blake Baker doesn't just say, hey, Mansour, hey, Pickett, hey, PJ Woodland. We're going to man up, and we're going to stop the run, and we're going to make this kid beat us through the air. Quite simply put, they're going to have to beat us through the air. And, Joe, which brings me the question, if he can't do that, do you go to Austin Simmons, who is a better thrower of the football? The problem is if you're going to have those kinds of mistakes against Kentucky, you better not do this against LSU. And that's why I think you got to start Chambliss in this, because LSU is very turnover prone. And quite honestly, I think Baker's not going to switch anything up here. They're going to do everything that they've been doing. And Joe, I gotta continue to say this. I do think the best secondary in the country right now resides in Baton Rouge.
And I agree with that. So that's like the biggest part for me, why I really think that LSU has the edge in this game and why they should win this game. Austin Simmons plays or contributes, however they end up figuring this out. It's Monday when we're taping this, so maybe something is a little bit more clear. We probably won't know what the plan is until the game kicks off. Austin Simmons against that secondary turns the ball over multiple times. Trinidad Chambliss has been a little bit more protective of the football and has been a better decision maker, but I question if he is going to be the Achilles heel for this defense. Is he the guy that exposes the LSU defense? I don't think that's the case. I think that right now Blake Baker has the bodies that he needs as he's been building up this defense over multiple years to create one of the most chaotic defenses that anybody in college football has to deal with. Miami's defense is very different. They're 1A and 1B, but they're very different. Miami is swarm to the football, play fundamentally sound. LSU is, we're going to fly all over the field and we're going to pop you in the mouth and we're going to confuse the living hell out of you.
Well, and we're going to out-athlete you. I mean, they've just been out-athleting everybody. I mean, I
don't like it. I'm just saying, I don't like Ole Miss against, or Lane Kiffin against a defense like this. I just don't. I think that this is a game where he overthinks it and he gets caught up.
Well, let me just say this. This game in Oxford's always close. Mm-hmm. I would be shocked if it's more than a 10-point game on either side. Really, I do. I think it's going to be close. And I do think Ole Miss, for what it's worth, Joe, they can run the football. And I do think my question is, can LSU score more than 20 points? Because if they can't, I think Lane can find 20 points. I do. Maybe not against this defense. I get it. But, man, you're on the field a lot in 4 straight weeks. Who knows? At some point, this LSU defense is going to have a quote-unquote off day. And can this LSU offense pick them up? I think if LSU gets to 24-27, it's a ball game. It's over. It's ball game. But can they do it? And I got to give Garrett this. Say this about him. He better eliminate some of those turnovers like he did last year. You can't go into a game like this and do that.